All right, we've talked about what a planet is and the two different groups of planets, the inner planets and the outer planets. So now you have 2 pages that look like this. One says inner planets. We're going to glue it like this. You can glue it on the top if you like, but this is how I found where it fits. Then we have where it says terrestrial planets, and you're going to make all of these pages flip and glue. And then on the bottom, you're going to have outer planets. It says gas giants, and we're going to do the same. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and that's what it's going to look like. And when you're done, come on back. All right, we are going to be actually talking about specific planets, and as I talk about them, we are going to be referring back to this notebook that we had before. Okay, this page for information, if you need more information on that planet. Okay, so if you need more information, that is the place for you to refer back to. Now, if we remember in our notes yesterday, we talked about, if you remember in our notes before this, we talked about what a planet was. A planet is a large body that revolves around the sun and it does not make its own light. We have 2 groups, inner planets and outer planets. We learned that the inner planets are the closest to the sun, there's 4 of them, and the outer planets are the furthest from the sun, and there's 4 of them. We also learned that they're called the terrestrial planets because they're rocky, and the gas giants because they're mostly made out of gas. But that is as far as we have gotten. So what we're going to do is we are going to take notes on each individual planet. So the first one, we're actually going to start, I'm going to zoom in here. We're going to start closest to the sun. Okay, so the closest to the sun is going to be Mercury. Now, Mercury is the smallest planet. It is the closest to the sun, but it is not the hottest. Venus is actually the hottest because of its atmosphere. Mercury has a lot of craters on it because it does not have wind or ways for the craters to be eroded. It also does not have a moon, and it does not have an atmosphere. Mercury goes around the Earth, goes around the sun the fastest because it has the shortest distance to go around the sun. So what I'm going to write is this is closest to the sun. It's the smallest planet. It has no atmosphere. And it has rocky craters. From being hit by asteroids and things like that. Now, other planets have an atmosphere where they would burn up before they would hit it, and if it did hit it, it has wind or some kind of weather to erode those away to make them not as deep, and Mercury does not have that. Okay, so the next one is going to be Venus. Now, Venus is considered Earth's sister planet, and that is because it is very similar in size to Earth. Venus, as I mentioned before, is the hottest planet because it has a very thick atmosphere and it traps the heat. On Mercury, the heat can escape a little bit better, so it's not as hot. But on Venus, it gets trapped, kind of like a greenhouse, like greenhouse gases. So this is the second closest. So we have the Sun, Mercury, and then Venus. It's approximately the same size as Earth. a little bit of a difference, but if you look at them, they are very similar in size. It has a very thick atmosphere, like I mentioned. And it's also the hottest planet. Because of this, it cannot support life. In addition to not having oxygen to support life, it is extremely hot. And if you look on your notes in the book that we put in there, it will give you more details on each of these planets. So that is Venus. Now the next one is our home planet, which is Earth. Earth is the third closest planet to the sun. And we are in the best location from Earth. From Earth to the sun, to where it's not too hot and it's not too cold. So it's able to support life. So we're the third planet from the sun. Earth is 70% water. We have one moon. Mercury does not have any moons. Venus does not have any moons. Earth has one moon, which is the moon. And it supports life. Okay, so that is Earth. Okay, our next one. And our last of our inner planets is Mars, the red planet. The red planet. I had to do it in red. So Mars is the fourth planet from the sun. It's known as the red planet, and that is because it is made of iron and it is rusty. And that's why it looks red. Now on the other side of Mars is our Kuiper Belt, which is where we have a lot of asteroids, and we'll be talking about that later on. But those are our terrestrial planets. So I'm going to color this and I will be right back. All right, we have that colored, and now we're going to move on to the gas giants, the outer planets. So our first gas giant is actually Jupiter. Now Jupiter is the largest planet. Now they're called giants because they are very large compared to the other planets. Okay, Jupiter is the fifth planet from the sun. Making sure that doesn't bleed through. It is the largest planet. And it has a large red spot, which is actually a hurricane, a large storm that has been happening for years and years. And it is called the red spot. In the video that we watch when we learn about Jupiter, it'll be red spot, red spot, red spot. Okay. Our next one is going to be Saturn. Now Saturn is the one with all of the cool looking rings. Saturn is the sixth planet from the sun. It's not quite as large as Jupiter, but it's pretty large. It has large rings. Now the rings are made up of chunks of ice, dust, rock, and gas. Of ice, rock, dust, and gas. Okay, so that is Saturn. Our next one is Uranus. This is the 7th planet from the sun, and it's actually kind of a unique planet because it rotates on its side. So it's kind of a little sideways. So the ring goes like this instead of like that. Okay, it is the 7th planet from the sun. It is smaller than the other two. It rotates sideways. And it rotates clockwise instead of counterclockwise like the other planets. So it's kind of backwards. And it also has a few rings, but they're very small. Now the last one is Neptune. Neptune is the furthest planet from the sun. It used to be Pluto, but Pluto is no longer considered a planet, and we'll get into that later on in this unit. Why the planets say Pluto can't play with them anymore. 8th planet from the sun. It has incredibly strong winds, the strongest weather in the solar system. It has a dark spot. Do not confuse the dark spot and the red spot. The red spot is in Jupiter and the dark spot is on Neptune. And it is very cold because it's so far away from the sun. So I'm going to color these and I will be back. All right, there it is all nice and colored. I'm going to zoom out here. Okay, so those are my notes. Now your assignment. It says planet facts. This is also in your notes. You're going to glue it in and you're going to answer this. You can find the answers on the pages from these notes from earlier, the notes we just did, and the book from earlier. So that is what you're going to submit as your assignment.